G'day and welcome to Mark and Sam After Work. This is the second part of the video that goes into the question, where does your accuracy come from, and all the bits and pieces that work with that question. But it's really talking about accuracy, which really came down to understanding that accuracy comes from consistency, and all up it comes down to confidence. And I suppose I've got a rifle in front of us to go through, well, I suppose to a degree, where our confidence comes from, a little bit of the story of what we're actually talking about. This is not the most accurate rifle by any means. It's still a very good rifle, but it has a bit more of the story attached to us. Now this is our Seiko TRG that started as a factory rifle where I bolted on a aftermarket muzzle brake and I started learning. I started shooting on a normal bag down the back of it, and then with the TRG bipod on it, with not this scope but a good Nightforce scope on it, and I went to start to push it out and start to make it work. It was at enough recoil where it was still a fair bit of a brute to shoot, and it certainly taught me a lot, and I started doing what I do as a mechanic slash bush mechanic slash hands-on engineer, whatever you want to call me. Started to where I've lived a life of, in a lot of cases, making do with what I've got. I can use that same brain to work out what I need to fix what I've got. And I suppose that starts, well, it's at both ends of the rifle. The first place that I was really probably dealing with things, I'd bolted on a muzzle brake, and I'd started to realise that the rifle had a bit more jump, which is a bit of a long story, but that muzzle brake was causing a bit of that side of things. But on the other side of things, I found that I want to lift myself up a little bit higher. I didn't want to be squashed down the ground, so I was taking a normal squeeze bag and putting it up on some blocks to get it higher, to get my chest off the ground. I've got a video below to go through my shooting position and my shooting form and making sense of what I was doing there. But I found a little less stability. It was something I had to fight with down the back. And my little buddy, my spotter, Sam, she found in her rifle, she wasn't trying to shoot this one, she found some issues with squeezing the bag and trying to hold herself on target. That started to fight it. It was a thing that was causing something she was dealing with rather than just shooting. She was dealing with something else, which is, like I said, the things I'm sort of discussing. So what I went through, I suppose on the muzzle brake side of things, I went through quite a lesson up the front of the rifle of both I wanted something to stop the dust from blowing up around the place, but I also found I wanted something not to affect the up and down movement of the rifle, so it just did recoil retardation. And the other thing I found is I didn't want the blast coming back against my face. So not so much the gas, but the percussion coming against my face. And by designing a muzzle brake that didn't do that, didn't give you percussion against your face, didn't blow things up off the ground, give you moderate to, well, good recoil retardation, made it more comfortable. Simply made it more comfortable, and it became more relaxing. There's less anticipation, less anxiety on pulling the trigger. Just something you start to ignore. And that's what my muzzle brakes really do. So that was this end. I've got different ones, and this is one of them certainly, and there's other features involved, but those are the main keys, and that certainly helped. It became something I no longer had to think about. It did its job properly. Down the back, the problem was I didn't have enough stability, and I really wanted something to try and help with the adjustment side of things. So you didn't need to squeeze it. You could just adjust it on a target. I started working on adjustable butt pad, or adjustable bag rod, I should say, and found that, okay, that was problematic. You're messing with a rifle, and it wasn't giving me the other stability feature. So I came up with my adjustable bag base, which gives me a broader footprint, and then it lets me adjust on the target. You squish your bag down properly, lets me adjust on a target so it stays working like that. You can adjust it wherever you want. If it settles in, you can adjust it, but it gives me control at the back there. Now, of course, there's the likes of F-Class, where you have a solid fixed rear bag, and then you adjust your front. I was doing it more in a tactical sense, and I have other features that are going on that score. But certainly those two features really started to change the shooting side of things. I then came through the simple engineering process of realizing, or about the same time, that to stop muzzle jump and that side of things is that I needed an adjustable butt pad on the back here. So various ways, whether I'm customizing rifles or I'm modifying to putting on the right chassis or whatever it is, but getting that liner pushed to the right place so everything pushes straight. With that, I found how important, and I did quite a bit of research until I developed my own bipod system. There are some good ones, but ultimately what I want is when the rifle moves straight backwards or moves backwards and forwards, that the barrel stays straight. It's not rocking over a bipod, but it also gives me the ability to preload a little bit, and then as the rifle moves back, it moves straight. The best way I could do that was with long legs, and to get longer legs, I had to go to the high point on like above the barrel. Not mounted to the barrel like some people think, mounted to the chassis, but wraps around a little ring that's at the front here. So it gives me these nice long legs. They fold away nicely. It grips really well. The rifle doesn't adjust on cant. You're not messing with it. Ultimately, it turns into the same thing. Another little feature you'll notice is there's solid legs on the bottom of this rather than rubber feet. Stops the spring. It actually grips the ground properly and just gives you a really nice, as you'll see, a lot of my rifles are very straightforward recoil. Really, ultimately, there's two things I'm doing. One is looking at how the rifle behaves on video and wherever that is, see how it behaves. I want it to behave well. But largely, I want to get it to where it's no longer a thought. I'm not thinking about it at all. I'm focused where it's doing its job properly, and I can focus on the conditions, on the wind, on the other things. All my engineering is designed about taking a concern away, taking an inconsistency away. And I suppose I can go into, this is a good one because of the chassis change and bits and pieces I've done to do all that. Not really trying to be a sales video, trying to go through the process of where I find accuracy. This one has now been upgraded to a heavier barrel. Is it more accurate than the factory barrel? Not particularly. It does weigh a bit more, so that helps with recoil a little bit. This is a 24-pound rifle. The other one was a 24-pound rifle too, in the fashion of what I had done with weights and bits and pieces and how I built it all. I do that sometimes I've got the heavy bag riders on the back, which put weight in a bolt-on place, where help with that side of things as well. Once again, building consistency. It's nicer to shoot. That builds more confidence. This barrel actually now has gone down to a 30 .338, which is, I just wanted to do it because I was offered a ream to be able to do that side of things, and I had access to a 30 cal barrel that was going to do the job. So I went through that process. Is it more accurate than the .338? No, it's not more accurate than the .338. Probably a little bit more efficient. It's a very good bullet, 245 grain projectile, traveling faster. That speed gives us a little better deal against the winds and that side of things. Doesn't ultimately make it any more accurate, but makes it a little more consistent, and being a little lighter makes it a little nicer to shoot. These are things that make things more accurate because you become more comfortable, and that gives you more confidence. There's people who'll focus on, well, there's the barrel tuners that a lot of people are going with. We've got something you can adjust and fine tune. I have issues with how harmonics deal with temperature change and that side of things, but there's places that'll work. There's the same with whether it's seating depth or it's the process you go with your loading side of things, that your hand loading side of things, you can really get meticulous about measuring and weighing and sorting and all that sort of stuff. Is it more accurate? In consistency, potentially there's a little bit you can gain. What I really would say with most of this sort of stuff, it's about what gives you confidence. You want to get to a point where you trust what's going to happen. You're not fighting it. Where do you look for problems? You look for the things you're fighting. If you're fighting holding on a target, then an adjustment system, be it a forward F-class system where you've got the toggle and skids and things like that at the front, if that's the style of shooting you're doing, and you've got a good heavy bag at the back there, that works fine. You're not fighting that. For me, I wanted to work with preload. I think it gives me some advantages. And my adjustable bag base was a huge thing. If you're fighting sonic or percussion against your face, or muzzle jumping, or whatever it is, then something in how your rifle's set up, or your muzzle brake, or too much recoil, or it's jumping off target so you can't see things. These are all things that potentially it can be just as accurate, but it's not going to be as consistent, and it's not going to build as much confidence. You don't feel as comfortable. I have everything down to my scope height, my trigger pressure, whatever it is. As I said, I'm very comfortable single feeding with Sam. She much prefers magazine feed. This is much more about making her comfortable, which makes her confident, which makes her shoot better. So ultimately, this does turn into a bit of a sales video. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to go through the process of explaining where you find accuracy. It isn't a case of what's a more accurate round or what's a more accurate rifle. Pretty much all of them can be super accurate. It comes down to what you're comfortable shooting. It comes down to what you have practiced with and what you are comfortable doing. If you find something is creating any anxieties, then it really doesn't matter how accurate it is for 1 or 2 shots, because that anxiety will work against you. You've got to take it away to where you are comfortable shooting it, and that in itself will build confidence. In some cases, it's just trigger time. There's no point having a rifle that is super accurate on all the numbers on the board, but it costs too much to run, so you don't get out to shoot it. That doesn't make it accurate. They don't work simply by pointing and pulling the trigger. There's a lot more in the engineering and also in between the ears going on and doing this side of things. So in the world of building, my way of doing it has been through lots of trigger time, but also building products that make my rifles nicer to shoot. That's what I do. In other places, it may be you're going to spend a lot of the time in your reloading room. That's where you do it. You gain confidence. It's a pleasure for you to do. You gain the confidence in there, in your reloading room. So it really depends on individuals as well. But it is a far more diverse question than people might have realized. But really, ultimately, the X factor is how confident you are of what you're doing when you squeeze that trigger. Anyway, guys, I know that got a little bit complicated, but that's my nutshell on where accuracy comes from, and that fits into all those other things of where you should start and what you should do, and how to find it and how to improve and all that sort of stuff. Hopefully there's a bit of wisdom in there for you. I put links down below in the video which go through different things from shooter form to muzzle brakes to rifle setup and that sort of stuff. Some links down there, and we have an absolute ton of it over the channel, some put forward better than others, but all going to try and help in the same aim to make us all better shooters. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for checking in. I'll catch you next time.